The strands of fate and circumstance sometimes guide us to surprising locations and people in the intricate fabric of life. It is twisted in sad circumstances and spun in a garment of righted fibers. When I tied the knot with my husband Dave, I assumed everything would be as ideal as it should be. I gave myself to him, my attention and loyalty. When he chose to send me divorce paperwork and favored his cruel sister over me, all the effort and attention I put into our relationship was wasted. This is the story of my sad relationship with the man I treated with great love and respect, who returned just cruelty. Am Lizzie. Our twisted relationship began with our fathers, best friends, and coworkers. To be honest, the narrative starts with a well-known twist of parental impact. Towering in the corporate world, my father maintained tight relationships with a lifetime friend, signing a contract that would entwine our paths. As it happened, this contract included my marriage to Dave, his son. Our folks had been promoting the story of us getting married from our early years. This concept would come back up in family get-togethers, trips, and important events. We were still young back then, hence I paid little care as I knew their ambition will outgrow them. Dave's and my childhood history was regrettable. I could honestly state it was not the coziest. Our early years were marked by intense conflicts and confrontations that presented two rivals instead of friends. Even now, my parents teased us about our dog and cat bond, saying it would finally lead to romantic sentiments, but it did not turn out as they had hoped for. Dave never missed a minute to declare his disdain of me. He used to say he would sooner die than have me as his wife. His nasty and hostile attitude towards me made me believe I was unworthy of love and tender treatment. He would criticize me for being so demanding. That was the worst thing ever. It made me inadequate and insecure. Still, my sentiments for him ran strong among the hate and poor way he treated me. Though the love was not returned, I was hopelessly in love with him. Though he exhibited the opposite emotions, it sounded so desperate, and I wanted to be close to him. It hurt, of course, but I get used to it. My attraction for him developed while we were in high school, but his impressions of me had not changed. He contested that our families were linked since he wanted no affiliation with a loser like me. Indeed, he would call me labels including lame, loser, boring, and oldie. He kept telling me I wasn't good for him since our levels were different. Could you stop hovering near me? You're a loser, and I wouldn't want to hang around with someone at your level, he remarked, disparaging me. As he spoke those words directly in front of me, my heart ached. Why, Dave, are you so nasty to me? Not even was I troubling you. Tell me to leave gracefully. You don't have to treat me like that, I begged. He rolled his eyes and merely grinned. Still, you are deserving of it. You cannot persuade me otherwise. Ugly and low girls like you are target for jokes and insults. But preserve silence and never respond, he said. He would continue rationalize that he was correct no matter how many times I tried to defend myself. Why I still loved him escapes me. The objective of our parents changed with the years. Dave had only contempt for me, although the marriage plot grew. Dave thus made the decision to study overseas apart from the control of his parents' illogical intentions. Dave had not seen me during the whole college years. I just knew about his spending of his lifetime in the States. He would spend much of his time courting girls, visit bars and parties. Without either component, I could sense my sentiments for him gradually fading. It lacked the strength it formerly possessed. On top of that, I discovered how to focus on other things, especially myself. At last, I seized the opportunity to visit the gym, make skincare investments, pick makeup, and treat myself. I basically had my glow up. My self-esteem raised, my mental health got better, and I grew more confident. I began to especially adore my life. I met various people who wanted to court and date me with the major changes in my life, but I learned that loving myself was enough, so I turned away them. I began working for my startup company after graduate from college, aiming to make it successful, and buy a house I could call my own. I started from nothing. Months later, I got the word. Dave was at last returning from college. Like me, he graduated with a business degree and was destined to inherit his father's business in the next years. As he graduated with Latin honors and strong intellectual ability, everybody celebrated. We got back together during his triumph and Thanksgiving celebration. There were no strong emotions or resentment directed on me this time. It demonstrated that we had both actually grown over years. Around one another, we were quiet. He extended a handshake, and I reached out for it. I sensed a spark right away, the same emotions we experienced in our youth. "It's been a long time since we last met," he remarked, grinning sweetly and sending me butterflies. "Oh, sure it does. Nice to meet you once more," I think I murmured softly, feeling like my younger self once more. All night he continued glancing at me, blushing and giving subdued flattery. We caught up on each other's life and stayed all night telling tales about our college experiences. Our parents watched our interactions, and we had no idea their want for us to get married would arise. Resolved to carry out their scheme, they reopened the conversations on marriage and dating, therefore placing them once more on the agenda. Though the talk was unpleasant, I could tell our sentiments for one another had changed. Dave and I agreed that Dave and I should seal the fate of success and fruition for our parents so as to reinforce their alliance and the reputation and standing of our businesses. They thought that if we linked our family together, our relationship would be closer. Though I couldn't recall what transpired in the next several days and months, the only obvious fact is that our wedding was already under planning. As if it were not crucial, they did not even seek for our permission. But I'm at peace since Dave's contempt for me has disappeared at last. He obviously hates me being his wife, though. There were heartaches in the run-up to our wedding. I saw Dave among other girls, each interaction erasing a bit from my brittle heart. Seeing him with other girls still hurt me no matter how hard I tried to persuade myself that we should have a casual relationship. On top of that, one night my pal went to the club with others and told me Dave's buddies made fun of me. I started to form the basis of their nasty jokes punchline. Unbounded humiliation, a reminder of the unmet love driving my life, was intolerable. My friend reinforced their remarks on me. "Your wife will bound you to endure with that loser. She is a quite dull woman. I guess you will be a lonely lad. You knew what? Though I am young and wealthy, I desire not to be like you, marrying that downgrading girl." Dave, too, made some nasty remarks. "She's improved now. I believe I can take her as a wife." Keep up with that, as if I had a choice. I have to satisfy my dad. I can leave her for permanent once I get the inheritance under control. My heart began to beat really quickly. He wanted to satisfy his father and protect his inheritance, hence he just agreed on the marriage plan. I thought he would like me at some time exactly as I liked him. But it was only hope, false hope. It will never take place. I should have known better, but right now I am hurting. Dave then strangely changed. He started treating me better when we got back together, but I realized this was for show. He was merely acting to please me so he would advance personally. His eyes, his manner softened, and he started treating me kindly. The extreme difference from years of apathy and animosity was taxing. I could not, however, dispute that my heart flew as he showed concern and attention, but I never let my defense down. Fast forward, at last we sealed the vows. Many people joined us in celebration of our marriage. I had no idea how to put what I felt then. I felt dissatisfied. Driven into this for the wishes of my parents, I expected a life of suffering and heartbreak. Early on in our marriage, it felt as though love was at last flowering between us. Still, we were not kind to one another. We hardly slept in the same bed. Every kind deed was an exhibition for everyone to enjoy. Our first year of marriage was spent mostly in performance for everyone. Arguments were, of course, also present. Dave came home intoxicated one night. His birthday fell here. He wanted to spend time with his pals, hence he turned down celebrating it with my family. Of course, I expected that since he constantly pushing in my face that I was just a boring woman to be with. "Oh, look who we have here, the loser," he snorted. When I heard those words, I was tidying the living room. My hold on the curtain tightened, but I stayed quiet, resolved not to provide him the gratification of a response. "The most dull wife available anywhere. That's you, correct?" His voice clearly sounded mocking. I tightened my jaw, struggling to keep my cool, then turned away his sharp eyes. "I sometimes wonder what it would be like if I hadn't been compelled into this marriage to you." "Most likely much less boring," he said mercilessly. My heart hurt from the nasty words he spoke, and my fingers shook just slightly. Still not allowing his verbal onslaught to break my stillness, I inhaled steadyingly. "Less valuable. You are like that. Not even a reasonable discussion is something you could hold." His intoxicated comments cut right through me. Though my chest clenched, I said nothing. My quiet turned into a weapon, a counterpoint for his poisonous remarks. "I suppose by now you are accustomed to this? Becoming invisible, being little. You are rather good at this." He never turned in his work. He continued to toss slights at me. Though I wiped them away, resolved to be strong, my eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "Well, darling, not to worry. I'll look for someone who is anything from dull. Someone who enlivens my life." What he just said really stunned me. My hands closed into fists, my nails biting into my palms. Tears welled up as the weight of his comments tore at me. He laughed at me just now. "Pathetic. I'm just honest. You're not able to be honest," he said sarcastically. I inhaled deeply, steadying myself. I cleaned away a tear that had leaked, not let his cruelty define my value. I was towering, a silent monument to fortitude against hardship. But then one day Kira, his half-sister, showed up without invitation. I had no idea he had younger sisters. We had known one another from our early years. She came from his mother's side, he told me. His parents separated when he was 5. From now on, Kira was to live with us. As Kira took front stage, my husband's metamorphosis was ephemeral and disappeared into the shadows. Dave's cold, apathetic behavior was more noticeable with her arrival. I watched from behind, a bystander to his developing loyalty to Kira. Their relationship grew and jealously hurt in my heart. I regularly watched them laughing, chatting, and even staying up late together. My doubts grew, and I couldn't understand they were simply siblings. But Kira's front was only that, a false mask covering her actual goals. Her mean-spiritedness and bullying proved evidence of her evil character. Though I knew all too well that she and Dave had conspired against me, her hate was unexplainable. She continued to be nasty to me. She would treat me cruelly, sometimes like a servant, whenever Dave wasn't present. "Your brother informed me you're not very excellent, thus kindly do my laundry for me." "At least you'll be acting moral," she would snort. She was really nasty, and Dave would always treat her well. He treated her well in comparison to me. Tried my best to live with it, concentrating on my career and completing the building of our ideal house. About 80% of our house was my contribution as well. The turning point in our narrative then came when Dave said he wanted Kira the house I had created, a monument to 5 years of unflinching commitment. It makes no difference if you say you paid for practically everything. You will follow all I say. I am your husband. About your feelings, I have no interest. My sister is due a house. You know what will happen if I divorce you. Obey me, or I will do that. Your father will despise and disown you," he said. Still, his last-ditch attempt to bend me to his will, a threat of divorce, did not break my will. I carried a secret that would permanently tip the scales of power. Under Kira's clever facade came a startling discovery. By means of background research, I revealed the truth. Dave's mistress, not half-sister. I spent every dollar I had running a background check on her when she first came into our lives. Under my unaware eye, their affair was an open secret carried out in the house I had built with tears and labor. Equipped with proof, I searched Dave's father for the truth about his son's treachery. As the understanding dawned, fury burned in his eyes. He quickly repudiated Dave. Once my pride and delight, the house became his father's acquisition, and I was paid for my work. He insisted on giving me twice its worth so that I would have money of my own. Dave's father drove them from my house, including the mistress. Right before us, he disowned Dave. As Dave's father tore up the letter declaring Dave as the successor of his company, I watched how terror flashed before Dave's eyes. Dave's riches and inheritance tore just as he tore the paper, and his mistress ran since she was now poor. I started a divorce, cutting the final links holding us together. Dave's universe collapsed, his acts plaguing him constantly. The retribution was a lyrical triumph over the powers trying to break me, not only fulfilling. I came out of it all stronger, driven by the notion that my cleverness and tenacity had flipped the script for people who had undervalued me. The storm left behind a range of feelings. As the bonds of a loveless marriage were at last severed, I felt release. Years of emotional upheaval, shame, and betrayal started to weigh less. Knowing that my strength had won, and that I had negotiated the dangerous seas of dishonesty and come out on top gave me comfort once the divorce was finalized. The next days presented difficulties as well. The whispers of society told another tale, one in which I was the culprit, having split apart an apparently content family. Behind closed doors, though, people were gradually solving the riddle and revealing the truth buried under layers of lies. The aftermath featured equally mixed feelings, from friends who had always stood by me and from those who had seen my marriage change. I discovered support in unlikely places. As they say, the truth shows itself, and with it came fresh appreciation for my resiliency. One important turning point was Kira's leaving from our life. Her real name and goals were revealed like wildfire, revealing her as the manipulative interloper she had been. Her humiliation was poetic retribution, reflecting the damage she caused upon me. Her leaving closed a chapter ending in the great narrative of my life. Dave's sentence was severe, appropriate for his degree of betrayal. He was alone and lonely after his inheritance vanished. His true parentage came to light, and his father disowned him. The same conceit and rudeness that had defined him came back to plague him, separating him from the world he had known. The retribution not only made sense, but also signaled a metamorphosis inside me. The encounter enhanced my senses and heightened my judgment of people's motivations. It strengthened my resilience by reminding me of my will to ride out the tides of life. My narrative finally turned into one of emancipation and atonement. It was evidence of the force of knowledge and the discovery of the facts hidden under surface level. Though it could have been unusual, my path from unmet love to humiliation to retaliation was mine. Rising from the wreckage of a failed marriage, I realized the phoenix that had sprung from the ashes was wiser and stronger than before. Should you find yourself in Lizzie's shoes, how would you approach things? Tell us in the part for comments below. For further material like this, remember to subscribe to the channel and like our videos. From abroad.
Hi, I'm Jennifer. Planning a wedding is supposed to be one of the happiest times in a person's life. But for me, a shadow loomed over it, one I wouldn't fully understand until it was almost too late. I was set to marry David, the love of my life. Everything was prepared. The venue, the dress, the vows, all framed against the backdrop of our beautiful hometown. As we finalized the details, my cousin James stepped in to help. Few people knew, but James had once had feelings for me. He even asked me to marry him, promising a life of luxury, knowing that marrying me meant a share of our family's significant inheritance. But his intentions never felt genuine, so I chose David, who I love for his kindness and sincerity, not his wealth. Jennifer, let me handle the cake and the food arrangements. You focus on being the beautiful bride, James offered, always playing the role of the supportive family member. Yet, something about the way he looked at me didn't quite match his friendly tone. Thanks, James, I really appreciate it, but are you sure? That's a lot for you to take on, I replied, a little hesitant. I insist, Jennifer. It's the least I can do. This will be the best wedding our family has ever seen. His words were reassuring, and in the whirlwind of planning, I was grateful for the help. As the big day approached, David and I were excited, ready to start our new life together. Family and friends gathered from near and far to celebrate with us. Everything seemed perfect, almost too perfect. Babe, are you sure about James handling the catering? After everything, David asked one evening. Yeah, he's family. Plus, he's been eager to help. It's nice to see him so involved, I reassured him. But as the wedding day drew closer, James started acting oddly. He seemed overly interested in the guest list and seating arrangements. Make sure you put me somewhere I can see everything, Jen. I want to make sure it all goes smoothly, he said. Sure, James. I'll have the planner seat near us, I responded, brushing off the unease that crept in. Looking back, I should have noticed the signs. But I was too caught up in the joyful haze of wedding preparations to see the storm brewing. The morning of the wedding was perfect. The sun was shining, the air was filled with the scent of flowers, and laughter from loved ones echoed around us. I felt like I was living in a dream as I prepared for the ceremony, slipping into my dress and having my makeup done. Meanwhile, James was busy with his own preparations, none of us aware of the sinister nature of his plans. He had volunteered to manage the wedding cake, a stunning three-tiered masterpiece meant to be the centerpiece of the reception. His demeanor was calm, but Mia, one of my bridesmaids, noticed his hands trembling slightly. Mia, does James seem off to you? He's been hovering around that cake like it's gold. Another bridesmaid whispered. Maybe he's just nervous. It's a big day for all of us, Mia replied, though her doubts lingered. She watched as James meticulously adjusted the cake's placement, his eyes darting around as if to ensure no one was paying too much attention. Satisfied, he stepped back, wiping his brow and offering forced smiles to anyone who approached. As I walked down the aisle, my heart was full of joy, my gaze locked on David. The ceremony was everything we had dreamed of, full of love, laughter, and heartfelt promises. The reception was a blur of happy moments, the cake standing proudly at its center, beautifully adorned with flowers that matched the theme. James mingled with the guests, his smiles a little too wide, his laughter a little too forced. He often glanced at the cake, then at me, his expression darkening for a moment before he smoothed it back into one of familial pride. Maya remained suspicious but decided to keep her thoughts to herself, not wanting to cast a shadow on my special day. Eventually, James approached David and me, raising his glass in a toast. To Jennifer and David, may your life together be as sweet and perfect as this cake we're about to enjoy, he said, his voice dripping with irony only he understood. Little did we know, those words would soon take on a far darker meaning. As the reception continued, the dance floor filled with laughter and love. David and I shared our first dance, lost in each other's eyes, the world around us fading away. Then, the moment everyone had been waiting for arrived, the cutting of the cake. We approached the beautiful dessert, cameras flashing, applause filling the air. We sliced through the cake together, sharing the first piece as a symbol of our new life. But as guests began to eat, the joy quickly turned to confusion. Minutes after the cake was served, I felt a strange churning in my stomach. Glancing around, I saw similar expressions of discomfort on the faces of our guests, David included. Jen, do you feel okay? My stomach. Something's not right, David whispered, concern filling his voice. I don't feel good either. Let's check on the others. The room buzzed with worry as more guests complained of feeling unwell. Little did we know, James's bitter jealousy had turned our joyous celebration into a nightmare. The celebration quickly turned into chaos as panic spread through the reception hall. Guests stumbled from their seats, some collapsing, their faces pale with fear. Shouts for help echoed through the air, mingling with the clatter of chairs being overturned. Mia, remembering her earlier suspicions, rushed to my side, her face etched with worry. Jennifer, this can't be a coincidence. Everyone got sick after eating the cake. "We need to call for help," she urged. Without hesitation, we called for ambulances. Soon the sound of sirens filled the air, a stark contrast to the wedding bells that had rung just hours before. Paramedics flooded the venue, tending to those most affected, including David and me, as they hurried us to the hospital. Lying on the stretcher, my mind raced, piecing together James' odd behavior, his fixation on the cake, his unease, and his desperation. All signs pointed to a sinister motive born from jealousy. "Check the cake, it might be poisoned." "James," I managed to whisper to the paramedics, my voice weak. They nodded, their professionalism a small comfort in the chaos as we were rushed away. At the hospital, doctors quickly administered treatments for poisoning. Thanks to their swift actions, the antidotes began to work, lessening the effects of whatever toxin had been in the cake. As I lay in the sterile light of the hospital room, surrounded by beeping monitors, the full weight of what had happened sank in. What should have been the best day of my life had become a nightmare. But amidst the turmoil, my resolve strengthened. James would have to answer for what he had done. He had not only endangered David and me, but had also put our entire family and friends at risk. David sat by my side, holding my hand, his face filled with concern and confusion. We were out of immediate danger, but the emotional scars were just beginning to surface. "Jen, what you said about the cake and James, do you really think he could have done this?" His voice trailed off, unable to fully grasp the horror of the situation. "I know it sounds crazy, but remember how he insisted on handling the cake, and how nervous he was. Something wasn't right. We need to talk to the police," I said, my voice firm. David nodded, squeezing my hand before reaching for his phone. The conversation with the authorities was brief, and soon after, detectives arrived at the hospital. Their faces were serious as they took our statements, the gravity of the situation clear to everyone. The investigation moved swiftly. The cake was tested and confirmed to contain traces of a potent toxin. With this evidence in hand, the focus turned to James. He was brought in for questioning, and under the weight of mounting evidence, his denials began to crumble. In a stark interrogation room, the walls closing in on him, James finally broke down. His confession was a volatile mix of anger, justification, and a twisted sense of betrayal. "I loved her. I deserved to be with her, not him. It was supposed to be me," James shouted, his voice cracking under the weight of his emotions. The detective's voice remained calm but firm. "You poisoned your own cousin and her guests, jeopardized lives, because she didn't love you back." James's face twisted as the full magnitude of his actions began to dawn on him. His plan, driven by jealousy, had spiraled into something far darker. In his mind, if he couldn't have me, no one else should. The confession sealed his fate. He would face serious charges, and the legal consequences would be severe. But it was the personal betrayal that cut the deepest. As David and I sat together, listening to the confession, we were overwhelmed by a mix of relief and sorrow. Relief that the truth had come out, and sorrow over the family bond that had been shattered beyond repair. James, once someone I trusted, had become a stranger, consumed by greed and jealousy. Back in the hospital room, as David comforted me, we realized that our ordeal was nearing its end. The physical recovery would be swift, but the emotional healing would take much longer. Yet, in that moment, we knew we would face it together, our bond strengthened by the trials we had endured. As the night deepened, our resolve solidified. This was not just about moving past the nightmare, but about ensuring our future was protected from such toxic influences. The hospital room, once a place of anxiety and fear, became a sanctuary for us to plan the next steps in our journey. "Let's do it right this time, Jen," David said softly. "Just us and the people who really matter." I nodded, agreeing wholeheartedly. A small ceremony. No grand spectacle. Just love, joy, and the people we trust. In that quiet moment, we found peace in taking control of our destiny again. We decided on a serene, intimate location, far from the painful memories of what was supposed to be our happiest day. Meanwhile, James would face the consequences of his actions. Although James wasn't prosecuted legally, the fallout from his betrayal was severe. He was excluded from the family and shunned by those who had once considered him kin. In the end, he lost far more than he had bargained for. Stripped of his place in our lives, the respect of his peers, and any affection that could have been salvaged, his fate was sealed. A life marked by isolation and regret. It was a punishment that fit the nature of his crime, meted out not by a court of law but by the unforgiving gavel of social and familial judgment. As David and I moved forward, we leaned heavily on the support of those who stood by us. Our scheduled wedding became a symbol of resilience, a beautiful, understated affair that focused on the depth of our love rather than the grandeur of the event. It was perfect, filled with genuine smiles and heartfelt wishes, a stark contrast to the darkness that had tainted our first ceremony. The day of our new wedding arrived bright and clear. As I walked towards David, the sun casting long shadows on the ground, the trials we have faced felt like distant memories. We exchanged vows with a deeper understanding of their weight, promising to protect and cherish each other, no matter what lay ahead. David whispered, "No matter what we face it together." "Always and forever," I replied. In that moment, surrounded by the warmth of those who truly mattered, the lessons of the past months crystallized into one simple truth. Love, when fortified by trust and mutual respect, can weather any storm. James' attempt to destroy us had only strengthened our resolve to build a life defined by the values we cherished. As the celebration continued, laughter and music filled the air, and David and I knew this was just the beginning. A lifetime of shared moments and dreams, each one affirming the enduring strength of our love. James's actions had brought our story to a dramatic climax, but we had transformed adversity into the foundation of a stronger bond. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think the social and familial ostracization James faced was a sufficient consequence for his actions, or should there have been legal repercussions despite the personal resolution? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed our journey. Subscribe for more content, and let's continue the conversation. Hey everyone, I'm Sarah Thompson. I'm 28, and I've been grinding away at Thompson Industries since I could spell spreadsheet. It's a tech company my dad, Richard Thompson, built from scratch. And no, being the boss's daughter isn't exactly smooth sailing, but I've earned my way. Just got promoted to chief financial officer, and it feels dang good. I'm also engaged to an incredible guy, Mark. He's an investment banker, brilliant, patient, and thankfully not bothered by my workaholic tendencies. We make it work. Now, about my sister Emily, she's 25, works in marketing, and, well, it's complicated. She's always been the free spirit, while I was the one nose deep in accounting books. Dad's expectations are sky high for both of us, but Emily struggles with that pressure. "Sarah, can you check this proposal for me?" Emily asked, barging into my office one day. I glanced at my jam-packed schedule. "Sure, Em, give me an hour." She rolled her eyes. "Never mind, I'll figure it out." "Come on, don't be like that. I'm just swamped." "You're always swamped, golden child, and all that." I winced. "That's not fair, Emily. I'm trying to help." "Help? Like getting me this job?" "I didn't need your charity, Sarah." "It wasn't charity. I thought you wanted to work here." She stormed out, leaving me feeling awful. Every time I try to mentor her, she acts like I'm flaunting my success. Then there's Jake, Emily's boyfriend. He's in accounting, entry level. Nice enough guy, but something always felt off. Like the way he looks at me, as if I'm competition. One day, I was heading to the break room for coffee when I overheard them talking in hushed tones. "Are you sure this will work?" Emily whispered. Jake's voice was intense. "Trust me, with my access and your inside info, it's foolproof. Sarah won't know what hit her." I froze. What the hell? But framing her for embezzlement? Isn't that going too far? My blood ran cold. Embezzlement. Frame me? You want to be daddy's favorite or not? Jake scoffed. "Once Sarah's out of the picture, you'll finally get the recognition you deserve." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own sister plotting to destroy everything I've worked for. I wanted to confront them right then and there, but something held me back. I needed to plan. I went back to my office, locked the door, and sank into my chair. My perfect life now felt like it was built on quicksand. Over the next few days, I kept a close eye on Emily and Jake. I started noticing things, like the way they were always huddled over a computer, or how they were suddenly best buddies with it, constantly asking for help. "Sarah, got a sec?" Olivia, my best friend and head of HR, poked her head into my office. "Yeah, come in." "Close the door." She sat down, concern etched on her face. "What's going on?" "You've been acting weird." I took a deep breath. Liv, I need to tell you something, but it stays between us. I told her everything, what I overheard, my suspicions. Her eyes widened. Holy Sarah, are you sure? I wish I wasn't. But I need your help. Can you keep an eye on their system access quietly? Olivia nodded. Consider it done. We'll catch these snakes. Weeks passed, and things got more suspicious. Emily and Jake would freeze up when I walked by, and I caught them repeatedly checking their accounts. Sarah, these numbers in the Key 3 report don't add up, Dad said during our weekly meeting. I struggled to keep my voice steady. I noticed that too. I'm looking into it. His eyes narrowed. See that you do. We can't afford mistakes like this. Late nights became my new normal as I dug deeper into the financials. The more I looked, the worse it got. A web of false transactions all pointing to me. Real clever, I muttered at 2 a.m. staring at the evidence. Then came the family dinner. Dad insisted we talk about the company's future. Emily, of course, volunteered to host. The tension was suffocating. So Sarah, Emily said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. How's the financial department? Any issues? I nearly choked on my wine. Everything's fine. Why do you ask? She shrugged, feigning innocence. Oh, no reason. Just heard some rumors about discrepancies in the books. Pretty big ones. Dad's head snapped up. What discrepancies? I'm sure it's nothing, Emily continued. Right, Sarah? All eyes turned to me. My mind raced. I couldn't reveal everything yet, but I couldn't lie either. We've had some irregularities, I admitted, but I'm handling it. Dad frowned. Why am I just hearing about this? I wanted to have all the facts before bringing it to you. I replied quickly, trying to stay composed. I didn't want to cause unnecessary panic. Panic? My mom asked, her voice laced with concern. Sarah, what's really going on? I could feel Emily's smug gaze burning into me. She thought she had me cornered, but little did she know I was already 3 steps ahead. Look, I said, setting my fork down. There have been some issues with the financial reports. I've been working overtime to trace the source. It's complicated. Complicated, Dad echoed. Sarah, you're the CFO. Making things uncomplicated is your job. I know, Dad, and I promise you, I'll get to the bottom of this. Every penny will be accounted for. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur of tense small talk and sharp glances. As we were leaving, Emily grabbed my arm. Everything okay, sis? You seemed a little flustered in there. I met her eyes, my voice low and steady. I'm fine, Emily, and I think you know exactly why. The next morning, I marched into Olivia's office, fueled by determination. Slamming the door shut, I declared, We're taking these bastards down. Olivia glanced up with a knowing smile. I was hoping you'd say that. What's the plan, boss? We spent hours plotting. It was risky, but it was the best way to expose Emily and Jake without bringing down the company. A fake acquisition. Olivia raised an eyebrow. That's bold, even for you. I grinned. Go big or go home, right? We leak info about Thompson Industries acquiring a hot new startup. Emily and Jake won't be able to resist using it for their scheme. Emily, of course, grew curious. She started probing me for details, cornering me at every opportunity. So this acquisition, she said casually one afternoon, must be a big deal, huh? A lot of money involved. I feigned indifference. You know I can't discuss the details, Em. She nodded, a little too understanding. Of course, just curious. As soon as she left, I texted Olivia. They took the bait. Time for phase 2. Finally, the day arrived. I called an emergency board meeting. My heart raced as the executive team filed in. Dad looked concerned. Emily was smug, and Jake, nervous. Thank you all for coming, I began, my voice steady. I've called this meeting to address the financial discrepancies affecting the company. I pulled up the first slide of my presentation. What you're about to see is the result of weeks of investigation. It reveals a systematic attempt to embezzle funds and frame me for the crime. Gasps filled the room. Emily's smirk vanished. Sarah, what is this? Dad demanded. The truth, Dad, just watch. Slide after slide, I laid out the evidence. Doctored reports, falsified transactions, all leading back to 2 people, Emily and Jake. This is ridiculous, Emily sputtered. You're making this up. I turned to her, my voice icy. Am I, Emily? Then how do you explain this? I played the recording of her and Jake discussing their plan in detail. Her face drained of color. Where did you get that? She whispered. You're not as clever as you think, sis. Did you really believe I wouldn't fight back? Jake shot to his feet. This is all a misunderstanding. Emily, tell them. But Emily was crumbling. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at our father. Daddy, I just wanted you to be proud of me, like you are of Sarah. Dad looked shell-shocked. Emily, how could you? It was all her idea. Jake blurted out. She came to me, said we could both benefit if we took Sarah down. I just went along with it. Emily's head snapped up. You lying bastard, it was your plan. As they turned on each other, I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and sorrow. I'd won, but at what cost? That's enough, I said firmly. Security will escort you both out. The authorities have already been notified. As they were led away, Emily shot me a venomous glare. I hate you, she spat. I met her gaze steadily. I know, but I'm not the one you should be angry with. You did this to yourself. The room fell silent as the door closed behind them. I turned to face the stunned executives and my shaken father. I know this is a lot to process, I said, but I promise you, Thompson Industries will recover from this. We're stronger than the actions of two misguided individuals. As the meeting adjourned, Dad approached me, his eyes brimming with unshed tears. Sarah, I don't know what to say. I straightened my shoulders. You don't have to say anything, Dad. Just trust that I've got this under control. It's what you trained me for after all. He nodded and walked away, leaving me alone with the weight of everything that had just unfolded. I allowed myself a moment to breathe. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. We have to fire them immediately, I said, pacing Dad's office. He nodded, his voice heavy. I know, but Sarah, she's still your sister. No, Dad, I said firmly. She stopped being my sister the moment she tried to destroy everything we've built. The next morning, Emily and Jake were escorted out, their belongings packed in boxes. As Emily passed my office, our eyes met for a brief moment. I saw a flicker of the little sister I used to know, but I steeled myself. This wasn't the time for weakness. We're pressing charges, I told our legal team, full extent of the law. No deals. The lawyer raised an eyebrow. Even for your sister. Especially for my sister. Sarah, you need to rest, Mark said one night, finding me hunched over my laptop at 3 a.m. I shook my head. I can't. There's too much at stake. He sat beside me, taking my hand. I know, but you're not alone in this. Let me help. His support meant everything. While my family was falling apart, Mark remained my rock. Then, one rainy afternoon, there was a knock at my office door. It was Emily. Sarah, please, can we talk? She asked, her voice shaky. I stared at her, the stranger wearing my sister's face. There's nothing to say. I'm sorry, she blurted out. I was jealous and stupid, and save it for the judge, Emily. We're done here. As security led her away, I felt a pang in my chest, but I squashed it down. She'd made her choice. The trial was a media circus. Jake, facing additional charges, crumbled fast. He took a plea deal, throwing Emily under the bus in the process. Miss Thompson, the prosecutor asked me on the stand, did you have any indication of your sister's intentions? I looked straight at Emily. No, I trusted her completely. That was my mistake. I'm proud of you, kiddo, Dad said, hugging me tightly after the verdict. You saved this company. You saved our family. I hugged him back, feeling the weight of the past year begin to lift. Months later, I stood in front of a mirror, adjusting my wedding veil. Mark and I had decided life was too short to wait. You ready? Olivia asked, grinning. I took a deep breath. More than ever. As I walked down the aisle, I saw my future stretching out before me, Mark, beaming, Dad crying, though he'd deny it later. Our friends and colleagues all gathered to celebrate. At the reception, Dad clinked his glass for a toast. To Sarah and Mark, he began, his voice full of emotion. And to the bright future of Thompson Industries under Sarah's leadership. As the room erupted in applause, I felt a sense of closure, but a question still lingered in my mind. Now I turn that question to you. If you were in my shoes, could you ever forgive Emily for her betrayal, Or would you cut ties completely, as I did? There's no easy answer, so I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.
Hey, I'm Alex. It was supposed to be one of the happiest nights of my life. The house was glowing with warm light, and the smell of roasted chicken filled the air. I was setting the table with our best china, rehearsing the speech in my head, the one where I'd tell my parents that Sarah and I were engaged. Sarah, who had been my rock for the past 3 years. We met at a tech conference, both reaching for the last slice of pepperoni pizza. It was silly, but we clicked instantly. "Everything looks lovely, Alex," Sarah said, stepping into the dining room. She was wearing her green dress, the one that made her eyes shine. I remember thinking how lucky I was. "I hope they'll love the news as much as I do," I said, giving her a quick peck on the cheek. We had planned every detail, down to when we'd break the news during dessert. The anticipation was killing me, but in a good way. Dinner started off wonderfully. Mom had outdone herself with the meal, and Dad was in high spirits, cracking jokes about the neighbors. We laughed, shared stories, and it felt like the perfect moment was building, naturally leading to dessert. As we reached that point, my heart pounded. I took a deep breath and held up the ring, its sparkle catching the light. "Mom, Dad, I wanted to share something special tonight. Sarah and I are engaged." The room went silent. The smile on my mother's face faded, and my father's expression darkened like a storm cloud rolling in. "How dare you decide to marry outside our culture, Alex?" My dad's voice was cold, each word soaked with disbelief and anger. My mom covered her mouth, tears welling up in her eyes. "You're bringing shame to our family," she whispered, more to herself than to me. I was stunned, my words stuck in my throat. This wasn't how I imagined the night would go. "Dad, I love her. She makes me happy. Isn't that what matters?" I pleaded. "You should know better," he shot back, standing so quickly that his chair toppled over. "Get out, and don't come back with such disrespect." Sarah, who had been silent, reached for my hand under the table, giving it a reassuring squeeze. I knew what I had to do. Standing up, I faced my parents, my voice steady. "I'm sorry you feel this way. I hoped for your blessing, but with or without it, I'm marrying Sarah." We left the house that night, the door slamming shut behind us, echoing the finality of the evening. As we drove away, the ring still in my hand, Sarah turned to me, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, but her voice firm. "We'll get through this together." And as we headed into the uncertainty of our future, I knew she was right. We were together, and that was what mattered. We were about to start a new chapter, just the two of us against the world. The weeks following my parents' rejection were a blur of emotions and difficult conversations. Sarah and I spent a lot of time at my new apartment, a small but cozy place that became our refuge from the storm. One evening, as we sat down for dinner, my phone buzzed nonstop. It was my Aunt Maria. I hesitated but answered, hoping for some words of comfort. "Alex, dear, what have you done?" "Your mother is devastated." Her voice was a mix of concern and disappointment. "I love Sarah. Aunt Maria. I thought they'd be happy for me. You know our traditions, Alex. Marrying outside the culture. It's hard for them." "I know, but it's my life." The call ended with promises to keep in touch, but the lack of outright support stung. The next day, Sarah and I met with some of our closest friends at a local cafe. Jenna, always the outspoken one, slammed her coffee down a bit too hard. "They're your parents, Alex, but they're wrong. You and Sarah are perfect together." Tom, ever the mediator, chimed in, "Maybe give it some time. They might come around." Sarah squeezed my hand under the table, a silent pillar of strength, but I could see the toll it was taking on her. She was always feeling like the outsider, the reason for my estrangement. One weekend, we attended a family gathering on Sarah's side. Her family was warm and welcoming, a stark contrast to my own. Her uncle clapped me on the back and said, "Your family now, Alex. Don't mind the naysayers." Yet despite their support, Sarah felt guilty, as if she were to blame for the rift. That night, back at our place, she broke down. "Maybe if I were different, your parents would have accepted me." "It's not you, Sarah. It's their old world mindset. We can't let that dictate our happiness." But even as I comforted her, doubts crept into my mind. Was I being selfish? Was my happiness worth this division? The conflict between my love for Sarah and my loyalty to my family tore at me. One afternoon, I sat in the park, watching families go about their day. Laughter echoed from the playground, but I couldn't shake my solemn mood. An old man, noticing my expression, sat down next to me. "Trouble with the heart of the home?" he asked. "Both, I guess," I admitted and ended up sharing my story. He listened quietly, nodding as I spoke. "Son," he said thoughtfully, "home isn't just where you come from. It's where you make it with those who love you, traditions and all." His words lingered in my mind as I made my way back to Sarah. That evening, as we sat on the balcony overlooking the city lights, I took her hands and said, "We'll build our home, Sarah, with or without them. Our love, our rules." In that moment, I knew that no matter the opposition, we would forge our path together, building a future where love transcends tradition. Sarah and I found solace in planning our wedding. We poured our energy into picking venues, tasting cakes, and choosing invitations that told our story, a blend of our cultures, symbolizing unity, love, and diversity. One afternoon, we found ourselves in our counselor's office, a cozy, book-lined room that felt like a safe harbor. Dr. Bennett, our counselor, was a patient listener, helping us navigate the emotional turmoil we faced. "As you build this new chapter," Dr. Bennett said gently, "it's not just about moving past the pain, but understanding and growing from it." His voice was calm, reassuring. Sarah nodded, squeezing my hand. "It's hard. I feel like I'm the reason Alex is estranged from his family." "That's not true, Sarah," I quickly responded. "It's about them not accepting my choice, not about you." Dr. Bennett smiled slightly. "It's important to remember this isn't about blame. It's about creating a space where both of you feel accepted and loved, no matter the external pressures." The next few weeks were filled with wedding preparations. Each detail we planned together felt like a step toward healing. But in the back of my mind, the thought of reconciling with my parents weighed on me. Could I truly move on without trying one last time? That question hit hard when, one evening, my brother Michael unexpectedly showed up at our apartment. "Mom's sick, Alex. She's been asking for you," he said, his voice tense. The news hit me like a punch to the gut. My first instinct was to rush to her side, but then I remembered their harsh words, their rejection. Sarah, ever perceptive, touched my arm. Maybe this is a chance to mend things, or at least find some closure. With her encouragement, I decided to visit my mom. As I stood outside her hospital room, I hesitated, unsure of what awaited me. Taking a deep breath, I stepped inside. She looked frail, a shadow of the strong woman I remembered. When she saw me, there was a flicker of surprise, followed by relief. "Alex," she whispered, her voice weak. "Mom, I'm here," I said, simple words loaded with unspoken emotions. We talked, really talked, for the first time in months. She shared her fears and regrets, not fully accepting my choices, but the love between us was undeniable. It wasn't complete reconciliation, but it was a start, a small step toward understanding. Leaving the hospital, I felt a mix of sadness and hope. Back at home, Sarah and I discussed the visit. Whatever the future held, one thing was clear. We were in this together, no matter what came next. She affirmed as we resumed our wedding plans, and I felt a renewed sense of purpose. We weren't just planning a celebration. We were laying a foundation of our future, brick by brick, built on respect, love, and the courage to embrace our true selves despite the adversity. Our wedding day arrived, small and intimate, held in a quaint garden Sarah had fallen in love with during our venue search. The setting was simple yet beautiful, with flowers blooming all around us, mirroring the new life we were about to start together. Only a few close friends and supportive family members were present, each one a testament to the love and strength that carried us through our toughest times. As Sarah walked down the aisle, radiant in a flowing white dress, there wasn't a dry eye to be seen. The air was thick with emotion. Each step she took symbolized our journey, challenging, yet filled with unwavering love and commitment. When she reached me, her hand in mine felt like the final piece of a puzzle, perfectly fitting, meant to be. Standing before our loved ones, I took a deep breath, ready to make not just a vow to Sarah, but a declaration for our future. Today, I not only take you, Sarah, as my wife, but I also vow to build a life with you that celebrates our strengths, respects our differences, and defies the odds we faced. Together, we will create a world where love is the only culture that defines us. The ceremony continued with heartfelt vows, gentle laughter, and the kind of warmth that only true acceptance brings. As we exchanged rings, the simplicity of the moment underscored the profound nature of our bond, one that had been forged in the fires of adversity, but was stronger for it. After the ceremony, as we mingled with our guests, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my father. My heart stopped for a moment, unsure of what to expect. With a reassuring nod from Sarah, I read it. *, congratulations, Alex. Your mother and I wish you happiness, *. It was brief, and while it didn't erase the pain of the past, it was a gesture, a small olive branch that hinted at the possibility of healing. Sarah squeezed my hand, her smile telling me everything I needed to know. We're doing this together, no matter what comes our way, she whispered. Later, as we stood looking out at our guests, basking in the joy of the day, we both knew this was just the beginning. Our future stretched out before us, promising not just challenges, but the potential for incredible joy and fulfillment. We were ready to face whatever life threw our way, knowing that at the end of the day, we had each other, and that was more than enough. As we walked back through the garden, the setting sun cast a golden glow around us, the light of 1,000 possibilities shining on the path ahead. Together, we stepped into our new life, not just as husband and wife, but as partners in a journey of acceptance, understanding, and profound love. That's the end of our story, folks. Now, I have a question for you. Do you think cultural traditions should hold more weight than personal happiness in matters of love and marriage? Share your thoughts in the comments below.